morning. I'd like to welcome all of you to this very, very special Vietnam Veterans Day ceremony. Let us begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'd like to ask our good friend, Roby Johnson, to do the honors.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Would you please face the flag and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Legionnaires, hand salute. One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you guys for leading me off. I had a brain melt.
That's allowed. Thank you, Roby. Thank you for your service and for all you continue to do for us. I pick up on that. Thank you. Please, everyone, please be seated. Our host today, Roby Johnson, who is the past county commander of the American Legion and the current chairman of the Town of Islip's Veterans Advisory Board, and also to all the members of Rusy Bohm, American Legion Post 411, right here in West Islip. In Islip, sorry about that. Also joining us is Islip Town Councilman John Lorenzo, who is our liaison to the Veterans Advisory Board from the town board. George Howe, do I see George? George sends his regrets, who is the commander of 411. Rich Abrams, who's the Veterans Service Officer. Thanks, Rich. Also Jim Beecher, the past county commander of the American Legion. And Richard Lutz, who's a Vietnam veteran and a retired United States Air Force member. Airborne, sorry. And also Steve Castleton, who is the vice chair of our Veterans Advisory Board and the civilian aide to the Secretary of the Army, retired, and all veteran members of the American Vietnam era here with us today. Today we stand at our Vietnam Memorial Garden located outside our Town Hall West to join in all who are doing this nationwide, recognizing the countless sacrifices and achievements of all who served during Vietnam. This garden stands as our community permanent tribute and gratitude to those who served. And with us today is our Parks and DPW Commissioner Tom Owens, and where we stand today is a future project, and in the not too distant future, that is going to see some improvements here. Today, March 28th, is the National Vietnam War Veterans Day, a day set aside to honor the 9 million Americans who served during the Vietnam War era, to remember the 58,000 brave souls whose names are etched on the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in Washington, and to give proper recognition to those who returned home without the welcome they truly, truly deserved. At this time, I ask that we observe a moment of silence to remember all those of our community who made the ultimate sacrifice in Vietnam.
Legionnaires, uncover.
Thank you.
Cover.
At this time, I just want to remind everyone that this significant date marks the final withdrawal of U.S. combat troops from Vietnam in 1973, the disbanding of the U.S. Military Assistance Command in Vietnam, and the completion of Operation Homecoming, which brought the last American prisoners of war safely home. Today, communities across our nation, including American Legion posts like our own Post 411, gather to honor, thank, and properly welcome home those veterans who served with distinction during one of our nation's most challenging chapters. I'd like to now invite Councilman John Lorenzo to please say a few words. John?
Thank you, Supervisor. Thank you all for having me here to say a few words on this beautiful spring morning. I wish the allergies would subside a little bit, but I guess that's where we have to go when we go to spring. It's an honor to be here today to say a few words to our veterans and welcome home. Let this day serve as a reminder of the bravery and the dedication of those who served, as well as the challenges they faced during and after. It's a day to reflect on their service, advocate for their needs, and ensure that their sacrifices are never forgotten. God bless America, and God bless to all of you. Thank you all who have served, and welcome home.
Thank you, John. I'd now like to invite Roby Johnson, American Legion past county commander, and as I said earlier, the chair of our Veterans Advisory Board. Roby?
I have absolutely nothing prepared, but I am going to speak about some things that I did hear. A couple of members have come to me and said, why are they going to do away with National Vietnam War Veterans Day? The simple answer is they're not. I did some research. It was under President Trump's first tour in office. He signed the bill that made National Vietnam War Veterans Day to exist in perpetuity. In other words, forever. It is not going to be changed. The other thing here is, and I said this last year, yes, we have Vietnam veterans here. We have Vietnam era veterans, and they are equally deserving of a homecoming, because when they came home, they were treated exactly the same as our Vietnam veterans were. It's a whole different time now. And thank God they finally decided to set it straight. And that's basically all I've got to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Roby, and always thank you for your service. I'd like to now call up Richard Lutz, a Vietnam veteran era and United States Air Born.
Thank you, Roby. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, veterans. It's a pleasure to see all of you in front of us. The Vietnam Veterans War Act of 2017 was signed into law then by also Donald J. Trump, President, March 9th, for Veterans of the War. This is a special day joined by 6 other military celebrations from the Code of Title IV of the United States 6. Among them days are Memorial Day, Independence Day, and Veterans Day. On March 29th is a fitting day to choose to honor the veterans. It is also chosen as an observance. On March 29th, 1973, the last day the Military Association Command of Vietnam was disassembled, and also was the last day combat troops departed Vietnam. In addition, around that same day, Hanoi released the last of the knowledgeable prisoners of the war. The United States of America Vietnam War Commission honored all veterans who served on active duty in the United States Armed Forces at this time from November of 1955 till May 15, 1975, regardless of location and their families. The Department of Veterans Affairs estimated that there are 6 to 7 million U.S. veterans of Vietnam living in America and abroad. Among them, millions of families and those who have served during that time. It makes no difference between veterans who served in the country and the theater, or where they are stationed, wherever during the Vietnam period, or all were called to service, and none could self-designate where they would be served. Lieutenant Colonel Dewey. I don't suppose anybody who has that name recalled on hand. He was the first American who was killed in Vietnam, September 6, 1945. He was placed there by President then Truman, and he belonged to a unit known as OSS. That's a throwback from World War II. That unit today is known as the CIA. He was there as an observer. July 29, 1959. First Americans killed in combat, Major Dale A. Bowie and Master Sergeant Overland. The Viet Cong guerrillas attacked their military advisory group. They were advised now in 59. And a place called, I'm sure most of you know, called Benoit. Some of you probably have been there. That's right, Benoit Airport. They were placed there by then Dwight D. Eisenhower, President of the United States. 1965, probably a date a lot of us all remember. I know I do especially. That's the date. The 173rd Airborne put 3,500 troops, ground troops on land in Vietnam. They were placed there by then President Lyndon B. Johnson, who at that time in his term put over 300,000 American troops in Vietnam. It was the beginning of escalation. January 29, 1973, Colonel William H. Noble was the last accounted American that was killed in action. He was placed there by then the 37th President of the United States, Richard M. Nixon. On March 29, 1973, was declared the end of the Vietnam War. Did it end there? No, it didn't. It was stopped until 1975. 1975 is when the last rocket attack, which killed Lance Corporal Dwayne Judge and Corporal William Charles Mahan, both of the Marine Corps. They were the last two Americans. Did the war end for us or them? No. Still, a lot of us still fight it today. We have dreams, we have outbursts. There's help available in the veterans for us. We should all attend these veteran seminars and go to anything we can find and get help if you need it. I am a veteran, yes. I'm second generation. My dad was first generation on the shores of Normandy from France to the streets of Berlin. He fought in World War II in the greatest generation, which gives us what we have today. Thank them a lot. I am second generation Vietnam, and I have a third generation, a Lieutenant Colonel Richard H. Lutz, who is now stationed at West Point. He fought in Iraq in 2008. What makes us brothers? Does it that hat you wear? No. Does that ribbons on your chest? No. It's that date you stood up and said, I, Richard H. Lutz, do solemnly swear. And all you is remember that date. It's something that they gave you that all of us is carried for the rest of our lives. And that's, Roby, a number. And mine is RA 1275458. And I dare anyone to ask any veteran out there if they don't know their number.
Richard, mine is US 515-87261.
Sal? That will remain in history forever. Gentlemen, ladies, thank you. God bless. May God take care of the veterans.
Thank you so much, Richard. Thank you for your service and welcome home. Next, I would like to invite Steve Castleton for a very special presentation of Department of Defense pins.
We have one more speaker, please.
I'm so sorry.
Jim Beecher.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Jim, why don't you come forward?
Looking into the past is a way to try and guess the future and hopefully not make the mistakes of the past. I'm going to mainly speak on the Republic of South Vietnam and its almost 20-year existence. Believe it or not, looking back, we see history of Vietnam to 2879 BC, almost 5,000 years of looking back. During the first 4,900 years, we see nothing but occupation and revolt. From 111 BC until 40 AD, China occupied Vietnam. They revolted and kicked the Chinese out, and the Chinese came back in 43 AD to 544 AD. Another revolt, which caused the growth of the Cham and Angkor empires from 602 to 905 AD, and then another Chinese occupation. Almost every generation has seen some type of revolt or revolution. Their favorite method is assassination. Going forward, the French took an interest in the area. The first mention in the United States is the involvement of the USS Constitution landing Marines in Da Nang, and they marched to rescue a French bishop in Hue. During World War II, the Vichy French had control until the Japanese invaded. On September 2nd, 1945, Ho Chi Minh declared Vietnam a free and independent nation. Much of what he said was based on the American Declaration of Independence. On September 26th, that's the date I have here, Lieutenant A. Peter Dewey was killed in an ambush outside of Saigon, the first American to die. General MacArthur asked the Chinese nationalist leader, Chiang Kai-shek, to send troops in to take over from the Japanese, but they would go no further south than the 16th parallel. In 1946, the French decided to regain control of what had been their former colony. They were able to gain control of the cities, but even that began to crumble, especially in the northern sections of the country. The French were eventually defeated at the Battle of Dien Diem Phu that lasted from March 13, 1954 to May 7, 1954. The Geneva Convention split Vietnam into two countries, the Democratic Republic of Vietnam, the north, and the Republic of Vietnam, which was the south. Elections to decide the government of Vietnam were to be held on July 1956. The failure to lead the establishment of the de facto regimes of both North and South in the beginning of the American part of the war. The unofficial date is November 1st, 1955, with the North supporting the Viet Cong. On March 6, 1960, the United States announced it'll send 3,500 more into Vietnam. That was under Eisenhower. On November 18, 1961, President Kennedy announced the sending of 18,000 advisors. On December 22, 1961, Specialist Ford James T. Davis was killed outside of Saigon, being the first death listed on the wall. The government in South Vietnam was a Roman Catholic. 90% of the country was not, mostly Buddhist. Much civil unrest occurred and continues for years. Starting in November 63, many coups d'etats began increasing the civil unrest. In 1964, August, the Gulf of Tonkin incident happened. A few days later, the Gulf of Tonkin resolution was passed, giving the president broad war powers. In March 1965, Marines landed in Da Nang to guard the airbase. They soon went on the offensive. For the purpose of skipping over many of the battles that were fought by our troops, some hard facts and figures. 9,087,000 Americans were in uniform during this period. 2,709,918 actually had boots on the ground. Over 58,000 died as a direct result of their service in Vietnam. American forces increased until April 1969, at which time 43,000 were in country. In July '69, President Nixon announced the Vietnamization of the war and the withdrawal of 25,000 troops. On September 2nd, 1969, Ho Chi Minh passed away, 24 years after his Declaration of Independence. In 1970, an insertion into Cambodia by U.S. and Vietnamese forces. In 1971, an insertion into Laos by Vietnamese forces. On March 29, 1973, the last American combat units were withdrawn. That's why we recognize this day. On April 30th, 1975, Saigon fell. After 1975, the Vietnamese went into Cambodia. And then in 1979, they had a border war with China. War has almost been ready to these people. At this time right now is one of the longest periods that we have recorded that they have no conflict. Thank you.
Thank you so much, James, and thank you for your service. Now I'd like to invite Steve Castleton for a special presentation of Department of Defense pins to our Vietnam veterans who are here today or their spouses in attendance. So Steve,
President George W. Bush first started this program back in 2008. President Obama signed it into law in 2014, and since that time I've now given out about 10,000 of these pins. But Angie and I talked about it, and we want to do something a little different today. Other than the fact that each veteran's getting one of those official DoD pins, we're giving each veteran an extra pin because we want you to reach out to one of your brothers or sisters who served with you who has yet to receive a pin. And one of the reasons I'm also saying sisters, a lot of you don't know, there's actually still a woman from Vietnam still missing in action. And along with those two pins that the veteran's going to get, we're going to give the veteran another pin for their family member. Because we all know when all of you served, somebody in your family served with you. Thank you.
thank you so much, Steve, and thank you for all you do. This is just a small way to say a real heartfelt thank you and appreciation for your service to our country. Absolutely.
I got a question for you guys. How many of you who were in Vietnam were air mobile? Come on, get your hands up. I know there's got to be more than two. All right, just so you know, when we were there, if you didn't have a certain amount of time in a helicopter, you were not eligible for the air medal. In 1974, my understanding now is, and I'm looking into it further, is that if you had 25 hours or more in a helicopter, whether you were part of that unit or not, you are entitled to the air medal. You can go online, get the application for the air medal, fill it out, and you can either send it back online or you can mail it. And to me, that's an important thing. I know that we had at least 25 hours. And so if any of you have 25 or more hours, and I don't expect you to be right on the nose because that's 58 years ago for me. I'm lucky I remember yesterday. But I am looking into it. I want to make sure before I tell everybody go ahead and do this, that the information I got is correct. So give me a couple of weeks. I will get in touch with everybody and let you know exactly what my findings are. Thank you.
Thank you, Roby, and thank you for your steadfast advocacy for our veterans. He never stops. Thank you.
Sure. Don't worry about it. You can go right in front.
I would never do that.
I know. Yeah. Right at the top, right? That was amazing.
There we go.
Yeah.
Not too sure if you didn't show up.
Got it?
Make sure they got it.
That's why I got it.
They already gave out to anyway. I guess they're going to wait until the third one for the family. I don't know why, but it was my wife and I what was his name? I don't think they got it.
Go ahead.
He just said that. We're going? Yeah, we're good.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Go ahead, son. You were sitting up here longer than me. No, go ahead, my brother. No, my brother. Go. Go. Air Force. Air Force. There's only one force. Air Force. There's security police. Do I get? Do we get that medal? Yes. I was in helicopter. No, go ahead, my brother. Go ahead, my brother. Hold on. I think you lost the back. You lost the back end of
How about an earring?
Oh, no, that's
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Well, thank you. Oops. That's on me.
That's what I look at.
Wife's veteran too?
No, but she, in fact,
She's your commander though.
yes, this year. I always get the last word, this year.